everybody. My name's Felicia Rose, and this is Scars and Stillness podcast. Thank you for coming back for our episode 2. I would like to do some full disclosures before we kind of move forward today. For starters, I am not by any means am I a therapist or a doctor or a psychiatrist. I'm none of those things. I'm just a woman who has lived experience and who I'm just telling my story and I'm just being real with people. Um, so just kind of keep that in mind. I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm just sharing my story in hopes that someone can come on here and realize that they're not alone. As mentioned in my first episode, Scars and Stillness is a brand that I created because I felt like I really wanted like a safe outlet and a safe place to go to be able to talk about trauma, to be able to talk about my life and living through the day to day, the nitty gritty, the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, where people expect us to be healed or better or to move on, to let things go. That's what Scars and Stillness is. It was just really important for me to just have that environment for people so they could realize like I get it, you know? And even if there's one person that can get something out of this, it means everything. It means everything. And I think that that's my purpose in a way is to kind of share my story in hopes that it can help heal another person. Okay. So with that out of the way, another thing I want to mention, I want to do a trigger warning on my videos. Um, Scars and Stillness is about trauma. It's about healing through trauma. It's about transformation. And it's also about like, the ucky stuff, the stuff that people don't like to talk about, as I just mentioned. So I do want to do a trigger warning because most of the topics, if not all of them that we discuss, are going to be really sensitive. It could pull something in you that you haven't thought about in a long time, that you might not even know is there. And I think that in that situation, we need to be really kind to ourselves. It's important that we hear our bodies, like if we're getting triggered and we hear it, like we hear our bodies and we just maybe take a break or, grab a blanket and get comfortable and just be aware of that. Because I want Scars and Stillness to be a safe environment for everybody. But obviously, the stuff we talk about, it's hard. It's hard to talk about. And a lot of times we don't want to. And that's the point. The point is to kind of work through it and to heal. Okay. And then my last thing that I want to touch on before we start our episode is that today's episode, and even in the future, um, really all the episodes that we go over are all very important to me, and I think that they deserve to be treated with respect and they're sacred. And so, with that being said, I have notes on my computer over here on the side, and so I have bullet points of information that I want to discuss and make sure that I'm not forgetting. I don't want to forget any of these things because it's really important. It's important for us to cover these things and acknowledge them, let them be heard. So if at any point you guys see me kind of glancing over for a second, or if you're listening to this on Spotify and you hear like a quick pause, that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of looking over at my notes. I want to make sure that I'm staying on task and that I'm giving this topic the respect it deserves. Okay, so moving forward, today's episode 2, we're going to talk about childhood trauma and inner child work. It's a big deal, and it's stuff that we don't like to talk about, honestly. Um, Funny story. So when you go to do really any course in the medical field, I'm in the medical field. So when you do any course for um, regarding the brain, you learn things, right? You learn about fight or flight. You learn about that our trauma really does shift and reshape our brains. And then they have this paper that they like to hand out. It's like this, I can't remember what it's called, but It's basically like this questionnaire that you fill out, and if you get five or more answers that you had severe childhood trauma exposure, and it can lead to, like, man, the statistics are insane, but you're, however much more likely to have addiction, you're however much more likely to go into abusive relationships, self-injurious behavior, suicide, like, it's insane. And I remember just recently, actually, I was having to do a state, certification class to get my, to do my relicensing, and, they did that. We had this paper that we had to fill out, and I kind of had, like, made, like a chuckle sound under my breath, and the lady sitting right next to me, she just looked at me and she nodded, like, we just non-verbally both agreed, like, we knew what we were talking about. Because unfortunately, in this, in these questions, like one of them would be like, "Were you a child of violence? Did you witness violence in your home?" Yes, no, NA, whatever. I was always like, all 10 of them, you guys, all 10 of them got checked for me. I had a I had a severely abusive upbringing. Like, we grew up, we were born into abuse, born into chaos. Um, but another thing I wanna talk about with childhood trauma is a lot of us, um I think it's kind of natural for people to think of trauma, you think of these huge events that happen that will just forever, like, shadow you, right? Which is true, like the basics, like abuse, PTSD, like war stuff or car accidents or whatever the case may be, something very, like, big bang and traumatic, that is very true, obviously. But another thing that people don't really like to talk about, or maybe they just don't understand or know, is that it does not have to be a big event to traumatize you. It could literally be small daily events that are happening in your life that are like ripping away at you and creating trauma. Okay. So, like, and sometimes you don't even know. Like being a grown woman, I'm kind of working through stuff. I'm in therapy. So, like, working through some of my stuff in therapy, I'm like, oh man, okay. Didn't realize I had that trauma because, like, a lot of times we don't even know. We don't even know all these stuff that we're bringing from childhood, or in the last video, we talked a little bit about core beliefs and stuff like that. It's all like the same thing. I'm spiritual. I'm a spiritual person. My family will talk about things like generational curses or, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's these patterns and these mindsets of your family that also stick to you like glue, and they become normalized. But if they're unhealthy, those actually become traumatic. I grew up almost immediately believing that the world that I live in is not safe. I do not live in a safe world. I by the time I was 5, my brain told me that men were not safe, that men would hurt me, that I had to be extra careful, you know? Do you see what I mean? Like, by the time I was 10, always have to be modest, always watch what I wear, or how I talk or make myself smaller. Um, all of that's trauma. All of that is just exposure and being around these environments and these things happening to us that really do shift our world. Another thing, so my partner and I, we're actually in couples therapy. That's pretty recent. We've probably only been doing couples therapy together for maybe 4 months now. And it's amazing. I was not so sure about therapy at all. Um, the thought of talking to someone who literally just doesn't know me, and I don't know. It just makes you feel it's just terrifying. It really is. It's terrifying. And like I had mentioned in my first episode, that I think that shame and trauma coexist. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of us, myself included, you just get that, like, icky feeling when you talk about your trauma or when you talk about the stuff that has happened to you or the decisions that you have made based off of, like, survival. Um, and so sometimes you don't really wanna peel back that onion. Sometimes you don't wanna go into all the nitty-gritty and the details because what if they don't even understand? What if they're judging me, you know? And so it took me a while to, like, realize that, like, "Hey, let's change our perspective. Let's be open to this. This might be good for us." And it is. It's amazing. I mean, you learn things that you just didn't understand before, like, your perspective totally switches, you know? I had made a comment one time in my therapy where I was talking about an example to my therapist, um, and I was really mad at my partner. I was really mad at my partner, um, and we don't have to get into that. It was just something that had happened, that triggered me. I got completely triggered, and I immediately shut down. Immediately shut down. I wanted to leave, like, I wanted to flee the situation, I just wanted to remove myself from the situation, and I remember talking about it in therapy, and, and I told her, "Well, I seen it. I seen this stuff with my own eyes. Are you telling me that my eyes are lying to me?" And she, like, had responded in a way that was like, "No, I'm not telling you that your eyes are lying to you, but trauma does have a way of kind of reshaping what we are seeing, basically to protect us, right? When our bodies get triggered and we feel like something bad is going to happen, we go into survival, right? We go into survival. So in that situation, my eyes kind of were lying to me because my trauma was like, red flag, alert, alert, like, protect yourself, run away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my body was like, ow, I felt this before. I gotta prepare her. I gotta add cushion. We need to run. We need to remove ourselves. Like, we need to detach. Um, so I thought that was actually really cool when I learned that trauma does lie. Trauma does lie to you. And we are not our trauma. That's been one of my biggest ones to remember is that we're not. We're not the things that have happened to us. We're not the abuse. We're not the trauma. Um, and for a while I was like, I remember I would tell my partner that, like, I don't think that I can be in relationships. Like, I think as a woman, I've reached a point where I feel like I'm too messed up. I'm too broken. I've been too hurt that I shouldn't be with anybody. That I should be alone. And I know that that was my trauma talking. I know that that was my trauma talking because in my brain, when I'm triggered, it's easier to isolate and be lonely and be safe in my little bubble or in my little box than not know what's going to happen. And that's a part of my trauma. Like, the need for control, the need for controlling my environment and knowing what's going to happen at every second, that is part of my trauma. That's part of my abuse that I've endured. And I know that. And so I think that just understanding our trauma is probably our first step with healing. And obviously remembering that it started when we were kids, even if we don't know, even if we don't understand. So, yeah, the first step is understanding trauma, understanding that, like, sometimes I've heard people say, like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't even know how this happened. I don't know what's going on inside my head. That's valid. That's completely valid. I can't tell you guys how many times I felt like that myself where I'm like, "Man, I'm a wreck." Like, I've also made comments where I'm like, "Of course nobody would love me. Look at me. Look how, like, look at my brain. Look at the way that I think. Like, look how I push people away." I push people away and then I get mad at them. I get mad at them, and I have this mindset where I'm like, "Eh, forever is not true. People will always leave me." Because people always have. People have always left. And I know that that's trauma, right? That's childhood trauma. That starts from there, like abandonment. I have severe abandonment issues because I've been abandoned, because that has happened in my life. I had severe issues as a child not trusting the world because I got brought up in an unsafe world. I got brought up in an environment that was fight or flight all the time. My brain was always in a survival state because I lived in chaos. I lived in abuse and addiction and just all the scary, crazy things as a baby and a little small child. Like, that's gonna have a lasting effect on you. So, yeah, I feel like understanding our childhood trauma is vital. And then our next step of childhood trauma is, who is the inner child? This got brought up in therapy, and I was stumped. I was like, "What are you talking about? What inner child? Like, what does that mean?" And then I was like, "Oh, well, maybe it's like me when I was a kid." Which, that's not a wrong answer. So the inner child is the parts of you when you were little that had been hurt, or that those things had happened to. The parts of you when you were small that had that neglect or the abuse, or the needs weren't being met, right? So once we understand that there's a younger version of myself, or I think about that. I'm also a writer, as you guys know, and so I can see a picture in my brain of the 5-year-old me, the 10-year-old me, the 15-year-old me, and all the different various stages of my life, all who had been through hell. And I can see me now as a woman, and I just want to give them a hug. I just want to let them know that, like, it's okay. It's not your fault. You're going to get through this. And that's a part of inner child. Like, acknowledging that there are versions of yourself that aren't healed. Even if we don't want to talk about it, even if we want to pretend like it's not real, they're in there, and they're not going to go away until we acknowledge it. Like, I had made a comment in therapy. I had made a comment in therapy with my partner, how I had felt like I was two separate people. Sometimes I felt like I was two separate people. Like, I was the young version of myself who fell in love, and then now I'm the adult version of myself. And that they butt heads. That I sometimes I feel like the young version of myself is what's holding on so tight to all of our history. But the older version of myself is suspicious and distrusting, and you know what I mean? Like, I've got my guard up. And so, like, a little bit of backstory on that. So my partner and I, we are first loves. Um, I think that I was like 15 or 14. I can't remember. Super little, young. Um, yeah, we were first loves. I was going through a really dark spot in my life. My sister, yeah, I was 14. I was 14, guys. So my sister had gotten murdered when I was 13, and my mom felt like we needed to uproot from everything I knew and move to a place that I'd never been before to, like, prevent, um, I don't know, make it easier or something. I'm not really sure. Anyways, I was in a really, really dark spot after my sister got killed, and I was completely alone. Everyone in my family coped in the ways that we knew how. Most of it was self-medicating because that's what we were taught at a very early age, to just shut our mouth and to drink a beer or smoke a bowl or whatever the case may be. So I was drowning um, in every possible way. I was drowning in every possible way. I was a huge drinker. I was a huge drinker as a kid, um, because I was at a place after my sister died that I wanted to feel. I felt like I died with her and I couldn't feel anything. Um, So I was in a really dark spot. I was in a really dark spot when I first met my partner, and he was like life itself. He was the type of guy that just he made you wanna live, Like, I was just he scared me. I was terrified of him. Like, I was terrified of him, and I was terrified the way that he made me feel, and, um, yeah. So we have known each other and been in love with each other for a very, very long time, but we also have a lot of history. We were both kids that got brought up in pretty rough environments. Both of us felt like we didn't deserve much. He was like the king of self-sabotage, and he knew it. He told me many times when we were young that he was scared that he was gonna hurt me or not be able to love me correctly, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah, lots of hurt, lots of pain, lots of stuff happened when we were younger, and then we broke up and we were disconnected from each other for 7 or 8 years for a really long time. We moved on with our lives, and then as grown people, we found our way back to each other. I literally feel like it's like out of a movie because it's so rare and it doesn't happen that often. And so we're blessed to be together and we're super in love and things are great. But all of that stuff that has happened to us in the past, it's not in the past. Like people always say, well, it's in the past, move on. You have to work through your stuff or it's not going to go away. My 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old self is still very much hurt, is still very much wounded from the things that had happened, and that's why I felt like I'm 2 separate people sometimes, where the younger version of me is just holding on for dear life because that's the love of your life, but the older version of me is like, "Mm-mm, nope, like, you love me now, I'm good enough now." Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel suspicious, and all of that's valid. All of my trauma and all my feelings are valid, and it's just stuff that we have to work through. So the next step is connecting with your inner self, like connecting with your inner child. And by doing that, I think that you're acknowledging what happened to you and you're telling yourself that it's okay. And the way that we connect with our inner selves is it looks different for everybody. No healing is the same. And nobody's trauma is the same. So things are going to work different for each person. I'm a huge writer, obviously. Um, I really enjoy journaling. I feel like it's a way for me to kind of get everything out and put it down and release it from myself. So yeah, I'm a huge, huge writer. As mentioned, I'm also spiritual. I believe in God, and so I'm also a big prayer. I like to kind of let go, let God, give it to Him, um, and just kind of surrender all my hurt to Him. So that way I can kind of continue moving forward. Um, but you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to be, a writer. Everyone's going to have their own ways that they feel like they best connect to their inner child. Even if that's like, you picture your younger version of yourself, and like I had mentioned earlier, you just walk up to them and you give them a hug and you tell them that it's okay. It's okay that you did what you did when you were in a survival state. It's okay. It's going to be okay. I've got you now. And I think just acknowledging that those things happened and that's okay. There's not a lot of stuff that we can, there's not a lot of stuff that we can do about it. And like I had mentioned in the last one is that, that quote, funny how we're not the ones that caused our trauma, but it's our responsibility to heal it. That is absolutely true. It is our responsibility to heal it because it's our responsibility to love ourselves enough to want to be healed, to want to be better, to be free. For me, I feel like healing is freedom. I'm removing those chains of my past. I'm removing all the ickiness and I'm allowing myself to walk forward in freedom. And that's really that's really what I want. That's really what I want. So I've already touched base on this, but my next part was tools for healing. Um, and that's kind of the same thing as what we just talked about, right? I think that just acknowledging our trauma, acknowledging that it starts from our childhood, acknowledging our inner child, connecting with our inner child, and then having and then however you wanna do that, however you wanna connect with your small person inside you. Um, but we also have to have some kinda tool, right? We have to have some kinda tool for healing. Again, no one's trauma is the same. No one's healing is gonna be the same. Things that work for me might not work for everybody else, and that's totally okay. Everything is completely customizable to what works best for you. As mentioned, I'm in therapy. I if you woulda asked me a year ago about therapy, I probably woulda laughed at you. But I feel like it has made such a great impact on my life and allowed me to wanna actually um, do something with my story. I had been talking about it forever and I never actually did anything with it. So I think that therapy in a way has allowed me to be brave. It's allowed me to be like, okay, enough is enough. I have a story and I think that it could heal and help people. And that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, so therapy doesn't work for everybody and that's fine. We just have to find certain tools that we could use to help us heal that spot. My therapist had talked to me about something reparenting. That had gotten brought up when we were discussing childhood trauma, the term reparenting, where we provide to our younger self what was needed. You know what I mean? Like whether that be love, safety, validation, um, safety, a safe space, like, you know what I mean? Like, I love the term safety, and I brought that up in my last video, but again, if you've been through severe abuse, like, you just you know. You know how vital that is, just being safe and, you know, being able to breathe and not always in fear or always feeling like you gotta, like, watch your back at all times because you never know what's gonna happen to you. But yeah, I liked the term of reparenting, just kind of the adult versions of ourselves become that safe parent voice for our inner child. I loved that. I didn't really have steady parents when I was a kid. I didn't have safe parents at all. So being able to be a parent to my younger self now, I feel like is going to be vital for me in my healing. But again, do whatever works for you guys. Just think of things that you can after acknowledging it, tools where you can try to feel like the healing of it. Um I I am a huge prayer, but I also really like meditation. I know meditation can be really grounding for a lot of people and it really can allow you to you feel it, you acknowledge it, you release it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the whole point is that we're acknowledging that pain. We're not pretending like it's not there. We're giving it the floor. We're allowing our pain and we're allowing our trauma to be heard because pain and trauma demand to be heard at some point. At some point, it's going to pop out and you're going to be like, okay, I get it. Time to acknowledge you. Time to, get my butt in gear and actually start healing. So, whatever the case may be, in ways that kind of help you feel better. And so we're not just stuck in limbo, just stuck in the things that have happened to us. We're triggered now, and that's carried into adulthood. You know what I mean? We get triggered, we feel the ways that we feel. We have our patterns that we did in survival that we feel like that's the way that it has to be. I feel like a part of acknowledging is also we have to unlearn. We have to unlearn, and that is not easy. I've been dealing with that, like, every day. Unlearning, like, unlearning the need to leave when I'm afraid or just whatever they are, just all of our trauma responses that were needed at one point. They were absolutely needed at one point, and so, again, another huge part for healing through trauma is we need to be really kind. We need to be kind to ourselves. The brain is really powerful, and I'm not so good at self-talk. I'm not. I'm not very good at self-talk, but I have been able to notice it more. I have been more self-aware of when I'm getting into states where I'm like, "Well, that was rude. I shouldn't talk to myself like that. Like, I'm doing the best I can." Even that, even when something comes up, like an old trauma response or whatever, when something comes up that's negative, um, remove it, reject it. Like, that's not true. I even say that. That's one of my biggest things. Um, because sometimes I feel like I don't even know what's true and what's not true in my brain because of all my trauma. But I feel like I'll kind of cycle through it. I'll get these thoughts and then I'll cycle through it and then I'll say that. I'll say that's not true. Nope, that's not true. And as I mentioned, I'm spiritual, so I'll even remove it. Say, I give it to you. Give it to you, God. That's not true. And I accept and receive armor and truth and healing. Like, we're just speaking life and prosperity over ourselves and over our past selves and over our healing because healing sucks. It really does. It's really rough, man. It's really rough. But yeah, I the one of the biggest things that we can do at this point is being kind to ourselves and just even though it's frustrating, even though you feel like, "Oh my gosh, this is taking forever. When am I ever going to be normal?" I hate the term normal anyway. I think that that's so just ass backwards. No one is normal. Everybody, everyone, every single person on the face of this earth has been through some kind of trauma. Some people are just better at hiding it, better at hiding their trauma than other people. That's what I think. But whatever. I did have a little note here where if journaling, like if journaling is your thing, I had I have done some journal prompts that I feel like might be helpful to you guys if it's something that you would be interested. One of the topics for the journal prompt is what did I need to hear as a child that I can tell myself today? I've done that one and it's really powerful. I've done forgiveness letters to my younger self. That's really powerful. Um, it felt very healing for me when I did that. And then my last one that I have noted on here is if my younger self sat with me now, what would they ask me for? I thought that that one was pretty cool as well. My favorite one personally was the forgiveness letter to my younger self because I have a tendency of just being really hard, really rough and really hard on myself. That's why I can't stress enough self-compassion. Like, it takes time. We just have to put it into perspective that, like, we have literally been going through it our whole life. Most people I know, like, you've been put through trauma and abuse and hell your whole life. You can't just magically wait for it to change. You know what I mean? It's gonna take the work, it's gonna take the time, and it's gonna take self-compassion. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. And, I mean, that's really all I have for today. I do want I do wanna leave everybody with I know that maybe stuff from our childhood could be some of the rougher stuff to have to kind of sh like, sift through. I know for me, especially, like, I don't want to. Like, I don't wanna think about those kind of things. I feel like my brain has blocked out a lot of abuse from when I was a kid, to protect me so that I used to tell people that, like, "There's a reason why I don't remember." Obviously, I don't need to be bringing that up now. Um, I feel like that could be true, but it could also not be true. Like, I think we owe it to ourselves to wanna heal and wanna be kind and kinda move forward. Anyways, that was our episode on childhood trauma. It's not fun stuff at all, but I think just loving ourselves through every area of our life is going to help us heal. Thank you guys for being with me today and being present during kind of a rougher topic. Um, I really appreciate your support. And if you like the video, please like and share if you would like to do that. Or subscribe to my channel if you're on Spotify right now. I post a lot of my main content on Instagram. If you guys are interested in that, the links to my all my other socials are going to be in my bio. I also have them posted in the video if you're watching the video. I know it might be hard to see, but I have most of my stuff there. Um but yeah, it's a journey and I'm really grateful to have this platform to kind of tell my story and just, be there for people. So again, if you guys want to stick around, I think that we can really start healing. Have a great rest of your week, and be kind to yourself.